It's been more than 6 months since he resigned as Chief of Naval Staff. But what prompted Admiral D.K. Joshi to what many think was an extreme step is not yet known. He's kept his silence for the past 7-8 months. We don't know what exactly happened, but in highest traditions of the military, he just walked away after he took responsibility for what was happening in the Navy. But what prompted him to take that decision, we never knew. But today, we have with us Admiral D.K. Joshi, who is given us time and actually willing to speak on what exactly happened, what transpired, and what prompted him to take that drastic decision. Admiral Joshi, thank you very much for your time and agreeing to do this interview. You've not spoken ever since you walked away from that office. What really prompted the government to accept your resignation with such alacrity?
Well, on the speed of its acceptance, I really have no comments. In my letter, I had of course requested that it be given, that it would be with the immediate effect, and therefore neither then nor now do I have an issue with that. But that said, the fact that it got accepted in a couple of hours, well, surprise is not the word, but I certainly was amused that there appeared to be such great haste to pin it on someone.
That was accepted within about 10 minutes, I'm told, now that we are speaking after about 6-7 months.
Well, it took a couple of hours. Certainly not 10 minutes, but okay, just a couple of hours.
Normally, one would think that this resignation would be either taken to the cabinet or to the Cabinet Committee on Security, at least, or to the Prime Minister. Do you think that happened?
Well, I wouldn't comment on the sort of process that it may or may not have followed. But the fact that it got done in just a couple of hours should perhaps provide an indication of what route it took. But I have no issues with that. I had requested with immediate effect, and
yes, but was it done to sort of get rid of the problem and not let that problem go beyond you? You know what I mean, to the Minister and to the Ministry of Defence.
Right. It would appear that the haste with which it was accepted, perhaps there might have been a consideration that what happens if we delay it and this guy changes his mind.
Okay. No, but talking again about the resignation, I mean, what prompted you really?
Well, this is going to perhaps take a bit.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Firstly, I think the root cause is this dysfunctional and inefficient business model that we have, wherein professional competence, domain expertise, accountability, responsibility, and authority, these all reside in separate silos in different locations. And whilst professional competence, domain expertise, accountability, responsibility is with the service, that is not the case with authority. And by authority, I mean really empowerment, the power of approving something or the other. For example, change of submarine batteries,
right,
which are produced indigenously, are available in the local market, or for commencing repairs and refits of ships, aircraft, submarines indigenously in Indian yards.
Right.
Service doesn't have that empowerment. So that is the broad sort of construct as a background. That where there is authority, there is no accountability.
Correct.
And where there is responsibility, the authority is not there.
Yeah.
And you don't have to accept it coming from me for more than a decade now, I think, recognizing fully that the higher management of defense needs reforms.
Yeah.
Several expert committees have been formed. Virtually all their recommendations have been more or less identical.
Sure.
But vested interests, I think, have ensured that the substantive ones, which bring accountability and authority together, have not been approved. They haven't seen the light of the day.
Right.
Some peripheral ones have been sort of progressed, but nothing substantive.
But when you say vested interest, let's get it out. I mean, which are these vested interests? Who do not want?
Interest, I think, to your perceptive listeners and to you are very clear. I'm not going to be naming any names, but that's very clear.
Right.
And these are the ones who wield the authority.
So when
without accountability.
Yes. So when
with that background,
correct,
coming back to your question, With that as a backdrop, in my letter, what I had said was that I am accepting moral responsibility for the dent caused to the professional image of the Navy on account of a few incidents and accidents.
That's right.
So I think image is the key or the operative word here.
Yes.
Many things go into making or demolishing of an image.
Sure.
Chief amongst them, of course, is the professional conduct of the service itself.
Right.
And there is no denying the fact that there were issues there. There were 2 or 3 cases of professional lapses. There were issues with the training, with workup and so on and so forth, where correctives had been set in place.
Right.
But apart from that, there were also many factors external to the service.
Which were not in your control.
Which are entirely beyond your control. And for example, the support extended to the service. And by support, I do not mean charity or favors being done.
Yeah.
Were your proposals for replacement of submarine battery being received approved in time?
Right.
Were your ships offloading of refits being done in time? Was your ordnance available for the armament that you had? And the Barak case was reported widely in the open domain. And the answers to all of these are known. And all of these have an impact finally on the image of the service.
Sure.
A more untenable and ridiculous situation that we are unable to provide batteries to our submarines in time.
Yes.
I can't sort of quote another example of that nature, or we can't give refits to our ships in time in Indian shipyards. There is no foreign exchange involved, there is no foreign vendor involved. So this is the kind of support that I'm talking about. This has an impact on the image. Also, there is another dimension of this support is when things go wrong, and occasionally they will, in any high technology enterprise, things may go wrong at times.
Yes.
Does the establishment support you? Or does it rush to make frittering away national resources?
Yes, that press release that we are talking about.
Precisely.
Yes.
So that is the other thing which again impacts on the image. Also, media.
Yeah.
The power of the media. Now, power of the media to make or mar an image is unquestionable.
Sure.
But within that, what I wish to illustrate is that maybe 2 or 3 relatively junior and ignorant reporters are able to drown out the voice of reason of the rest of the mainstream national media entirely, because of a tendency to believe what is sensational and not what is well-reasoned, mature and rational reporting.
Right.
Now, for example, there was this one TV reporter on the day of the Sindhu Rakshak tragedy.
When the blast took place.
When the blast took place, I think 14th of August.
That's right.
Where every channel was showing the submarine on fire. And it was a national tragedy really, where the fate at that point in time of all those trapped inside was not known. This reporter is standing on top of Raisina Hill and telecasting. We are told that the Navy chief is headed for Bombay. But we are not sure whether or not he will go to the scene of accident.
Oh.
Because when Uttaranchal, not Uttarakhand, tragedy happened, he did not go there, although he is a native of that state.
That is personal attack.
Apart from being a personal attack, it brings out the level of education and maturity of this reporter. I mean, does he feel that the Navy chief is headed to Bombay to join Bollywood?
Yeah.
Or to trade shares in Bombay Stock Exchange?
Yeah, but that's an unfortunate part of the media.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Precisely. And then there were these 2 newspapers. One, of course, was which had invented the coup theory. And this reporter was the darling of foreign vendors. And to show his importance, he would author articles like, the reporter is in country ABC at the invitation of vendor XYZ.
Right.
Then there was another paper which headlined, this banner headline, Vikramaditya unable to refuel from tanker at sea.
Yes.
The ship incapable of navigating through high seas at 56 kilometers an hour. Any kindergarten kid will tell you ships and aircraft, including commercial ones, do not navigate in kilometers an hour.
It's not.
So that is the level of knowledge and professional grip of these reporters, and it was a blatant lie.
Yes, but going beyond those media headlines too, I think the other bigger problem, I don't know, you can clarify it, does the establishment, were they also guilty of believing those reports rather than asking you of what exactly is happening?
Well, when you put out statements like frittering away national resources, I think it's a very damning indictment
Right.
for service.
Right.
To begin with, frittering away sort of implies willful waste.
Yes. Yes.
And when related to an armed force, it is tantamount to treachery.
Yes.
Now, the sensible media at that point in time had erupted
Yes.
and said that this is a most unfortunate and unwarranted statement,
Yes.
should not have been done.
Right.
But that voice was drowned out, and particularly when they are fed.
So now that
Constantly.
brings me to this, was this a kind of an inside job, if I may say so, or as many of your colleagues in Navy have alluded to in private conversations, a soft coup to sort of crowd you into a corner because you were harsh on many of the professional mistakes that were made, which is rightly chief's duty if he has to take action. Did you get that feeling?
No, I don't think there was anything internal from the service.
Right.
But that feeds were being given is indisputable.
Okay.
Very recently, another former chief belonging to another service has described it as finger pointing. It was earlier by the responsible media described as clearing of the yardarm.
Right.
And these were, we know who was the, we of course know in the public domain who made that statement.
Right.
We also know who authored it. And we also know who was constantly feeding it to the kind of trio like this. So that the service, should something go wrong, service is the villain.
Right.
Knights are knights in shining armor.
So
So there was a job of a particular agent
Right.
of the establishment to continuously feed that. And we are very clear about that. But that is not the reason that I put in my paper.
No,
But like I said,
Correct. You took
I
responsibility.
took responsibility only for the in-service
Morale.
aspects. But they were circumscribed by everything that I have described.
Let's look at a larger question, because a chief's resignation is not a matter to be sneezed at, really. And you took a decision when you had almost 18 or 19 months to go in office. First I'll ask you whether it was an emotional decision or it was a well-reasoned decision.
Well, certainly emotions and sentiments were involved. Like you said, at that point in time, I had not even completed half my tenure.
Correct.
More than 18 months was still ahead of me. So therefore, sentiments and emotions were certainly involved. But it was driven purely by practical considerations and a realization of the on-ground situation in the manner that we had.
Was it frustration at the functioning?
Well, like I have said, these were all what circumscribed.
Yes. They were
external.
building up towards
Yeah,
this.
of course.
It was building up towards that.
Oh, it was building up for a long time. In the sense, one was watching the way cookie crumbles for a long time.
People have pointed fingers at you, saying that you took it upon yourself to punish everybody for even the smallest of mistakes. When you look back, do you think that was one of the reasons that sort of built the pressure on you, that because you were harsh on other people, you had to be also harsh on yourself when things really came to that situation?
Was there a pressure on me on account of actions taken against erring subordinates? Firstly, actions were taken only in respect of serious misdemeanors, professional lapses.
Sure.
And that by itself did not put me under any pressure whatsoever. But again, limiting myself to the in-service element, and that is what I said in my letter.
Right.
It was my view that beyond a time, moral responsibility has to travel up.
I still have to get that one answer from you, that when you took the decision to resign, do you think it could have been handled differently 6 months down the line or 8 months down the line? You think personally you would have handled it differently, or the ministry could have handled it differently?
No, what the ministry could or could not have done, I would not comment on that. And your question is that, would I have?
Yes.
No, I don't think so.
No?
I don't think so, because like I said, while I took the responsibility limited only to the in-service component,
That's right.
I have described the operating environment,
Yes.
which to my mind was dysfunctional. And I felt that being a service chief was not only about preening around on national TV on Republic Day parades and Amar Jawan Jyoti occasions and people telling you, we saw you on TV, you know, your uniform looks, or you were looking very smart in your uniform. In actual fact, you are unable to get a set of batteries for your submarines. And that to me was a totally untenable situation for continuation as a chief. So this was not a off-the-cuff, hasty, emotional outburst or something. It had been building up, and the most relevant aspect I thought was the service really, which looks up to his chief as some sort of a demigod perhaps.
Correct.
And for them to realize that he is actually unable to get
anything,
set of batteries.
even set of batteries for them. Yeah, that was the last straw, I guess. That was the last. So let me ask you, finally, maybe a couple of questions now. Do our politicians who actually, you mentioned one minister asking you, Chief, what's happening to the thing? Did the defense ministry and the defense minister ever ask you relevant questions? Are they capable of doing this? And let's talk about general, let's not talk about specific individuals.
Well, I know where it is sort of getting me into, but all I would say is, those who know me will tell you that having been a chief at that point in time of perhaps the 5th or the 6th biggest navy in the world, I am not the type who will make one feeble attempt at some subordinate level, and if things don't happen, put in my papers.
Right.
That's all.
Okay. So, okay.
I have said what I
You said that. Yes, I get your point. One final question on this. When you resigned, and after, 2-3 months after that, I kept meeting people at different levels. There was one thought among some people that you could have done better by not resigning and maybe fighting it within the system. Was that an option at all?
Well, this I think I have sort of covered.
Yes, I know. You have said that,
it is.
But I still want a clear answer.
It is with the fullest really, and that is why, somebody may well ask you why in February, why not? So this was with the realization that your operating environment is pretty much sort of dysfunctional. Support in the sense you were receiving, I have described.
Yes.
Things went wrong, straight away frittering the national resources. Tribute was paid.
Right.
And therefore my country, in-house we would have sorted things out. There is no issue with that. Absolutely. But it is not only the in-service aspect that had it been improved, we would have been, everything would have been hunky-dory. No. It wouldn't have been.
Again, I keep saying final question, but this leads me to a question. A lot of people have said this again, and my personal opinion too. It couldn't have somebody higher than the defense minister, that is the Prime Minister, could have intervened and said, look, what is your problem? Because we have a precedent in that when General Thimayya had resigned and the Prime Minister had called him and said, take back your resignation. Could not that have happened?
Well, that is something I can't answer.
No, I'm just saying.
That is something I can't answer.
Was there any communication between the service chiefs and the Prime Minister of that time?
Yeah.